I refused to sign my house over to my sister, so she smiled, left, and the next call I got was from the fire Dept. Hi, I'm Lucian. I'm 33, and last spring, my sister set my house on fire because I wouldn't hand her the deed. Yeah, you heard that right. She wanted the whole thing, my home, my space, my one steady place in this world because she needed it more. And when I said no, she burned it to the ground. But you don't get to understand that part yet. First, let me tell you how this all started. Not with smoke, but with silence. A lifetime of it. I didn't grow up in a horror movie family. I grew up in a quiet one. A family where being fine was a job description, not a feeling. I was born first, and somehow that made me the default adult from the age of 9. My parents, Donald and Paris, didn't do screaming matches or heavy drinking or scandals. They did something worse. They did expectations. By the time I turned 16, I was the one reminding them to pay bills. I was the one who picked my sister Alora up from practice. I was the one who knew how to refill a prescription, book an oil change, or cook something that didn't come from a box. If I had a problem, they figured I'd handle it, because I always did, because Lucian's the strong one. Alora? She was the porcelain trophy on the shelf. Emotional, dreamy, endlessly praised for breathing, I guess. She cried over algebra and got extra tutoring. I aced it and got asked if I wanted to take AP Physics. She changed majors 4 times. My parents called her finding her path. I worked double shifts through college, and they called me so responsible. Same tone they used for a decent casserole. Proud but muted. A nod and move on. So no, I wasn't shocked when they co-signed a loan for her wedding and I found out about it 2 months later, or when they told me I was so lucky to have a good job after I mentioned struggling to afford dental work. But I didn't resent her, not at first. She was just playing the part she'd been given, the fragile one, the one who always needed more, and I was the background character who never did. Then I bought a house. Not a mansion, not some turnkey Pinterest dream, just a beat-up ranch on the edge of town, half-rotted porch, paint like peeling wallpaper, and cabinets warped by humidity and neglect. I walked in and thought, yeah, I can fix this. And I did. 10-hour shifts at work, evenings with a crowbar or a paintbrush, weekends scraping floors and arguing with plumbing videos at 2 a.m. My best friend Alonzo helped with the big stuff, deck repairs, heavy lifting, moral support. We joked that the house was like a metaphor. I kept fixing things, not just because they were broken, but because I wasn't. When I finally finished the major work, new floors, sealed roof, gutted kitchen, I invited my parents over, just to see, just to share the one thing I'd built for myself. Donald walked through with a nod. "You always were handy, son." Paris smiled like it was a school art project. "Very nice, Lucian, very clean." If it had been Alora, they'd have brought balloons. But whatever, I didn't build the house for applause. I built it to have something of my own. Turns out, that's exactly why they hated it. Because once I owned something that couldn't be rewritten or shared or sacrificed for someone else, it became a threat, especially to Alora. And that's when the real fire started. The housewarming was supposed to be chill. Pizza, folding chairs, a couple co-workers, and my parents. Nothing big. I even debated skipping it altogether, but Alonzo said I deserved one evening where people saw what I'd built. So I caved, cleaned up, bought paper plates, and told myself it was fine. Alora showed up 20 minutes early with her toddler on one hip and a crowd behind her. I counted at least 15 people I didn't know. She breezed through the front door like she owned the place, dumped Bentley on the floor with a plastic truck, and started handing out drinks like she was hosting. Paris clapped her hands, smiling. "Look how much life she brings to a space." Donald chuckled. "It's family, Lucian. Relax." I wasn't relaxed. I was cornered in my own house. The strangers opened my cabinets. One guy complimented the hallway light switch. Another leaned into the fridge and asked, "Any soda?" Alora just laughed and said, "Don't mind him, he's basically family." Dario showed up late, wearing that smug face he always wore, like he was the CEO of a company he inherited. He He gave a slow nod, looking around, like the place met expectations. I almost threw him out on sight. We hadn't even finished the pizza when Alora stood in the middle of the living room and clapped. Everyone went quiet. She held up a manila folder like she was hosting a seminar. "I have a plan," she announced. I laughed, confused. "A plan for what?" She smiled wide. "For all of us. This house is perfect for a young family. Bentley needs stability. You have more space than you need, and we worked out a way for everyone to benefit." I said nothing. She kept going. "You transfer the deed to us. You can finish the basement and live there. It's practical." I blinked. "You want me to give you my house?" Dario stepped in, calm as ever. "Not give, contribute. You make more than us. We'll cover part of the mortgage. 400, maybe 450. You keep the rest." I looked at Alonzo. He just shook his head slowly. Alora added, "You're choosing money over family if you say no." I nearly laughed. "You're asking me to fund your lifestyle. That's not family, that's theft." She didn't flinch. "Bentley deserves better." I snapped. "Don't use your kid as a crowbar." The room went dead quiet. I pointed to the door. "All of you, out!" Alora gasped like I hit her. "You're kicking out your own sister?" "No," I said. "I'm kicking out a bunch of people who think my house is a charity." Even my parents stood there stunned. Paris whispered, "Lucien, don't do this. Be the bigger person." I opened the door, and one by one they left. Alonzo stayed behind, arms crossed. "You okay?" I nodded. "But something's coming. I can feel it." And I was right. This was only the beginning. The messages started the next morning. I hadn't even made coffee when my phone lit up like a malfunctioning slot machine. Alora, full meltdown mode, paragraphs of guilt, rage, martyrdom, and straight-up manipulation. "You humiliated me in front of my child. You've always been jealous. You care more about floors than family." Then voice notes, her crying, sniffling, whimpering Bentley in the background like she'd queued him up for atmosphere. And then she pivoted, said I was a threat, said maybe I wasn't mentally well, said maybe she'd been too patient with me. Dario joined in with his usual smug nonsense. "Let's talk like adults. Once you calm down, we can finalize the transition plan. Don't worry, I already picked some affordable contractors for the basement." I blocked him. He emailed me, a spreadsheet titled Draft Transition Budget. I didn't open it. By noon, Alora had taken the fight to social media. She posted a tearful selfie captioned, "Kicked out of my brother's house, just trying to raise my child in peace." She didn't mention it was my house, that I'd built it, that she'd tried to steal it. Her followers flooded the comments. "Stay strong, mama. So unfair. Family is everything." A few of the people she dragged to my housewarming even tagged themselves in her post, like it was some kind of reunion. By 3 p.m., Donald called. "Lucien, be reasonable. She's upset. You know how she gets." I told him I had proof. Texts, emails, socials, threats. "You always take things too far," he said. "Just be the bigger person." Then Paris called. She cried immediately, said Bentley was traumatized, said Alora wasn't sleeping, said I'd broken something in the family that might not heal. I sent her screenshots too, proof, dates, times. Her response, "You're making it worse." Alonzo came over that night, sat with me while I backed up everything. Texts, emails, socials. "This is harassment," he said. "You need security." I installed cameras the next morning. Front yard, side entrance, motion lights, reinforced the locks. Not paranoia, just math. She wanted something. I said no. The obsession didn't stop. But the final sign? The one that told me this was turning into something else? That night, I caught a shadow on the side cam, hooded, low to the ground, moving toward the fuse box. Then, the feed went dark. I stared at my screen, heart hammering. No clean face, no proof. Just one message in my gut. You're not paranoid. You're in danger. I barely slept that night. I kept replaying the footage, even though there was nothing new to see. Just that figure, low and fast, skimming the edge of the camera's view. No face, just movement. Then static. I didn't call the police, not yet. What was I going to say? Hey, someone maybe crawled near my fuse box and now I can't prove it? No damage, no break-in, just a bad feeling. And technically, those aren't illegal. The next day, Paris texted, "You've made your point. Can you take the cameras down now? They're making your sister uncomfortable." I didn't respond. Uncomfortable? That word stuck in my chest like a nail. Alora had made my house a battlefield, and now she's the one uncomfortable? 2 days later, I left for a 3-day work trip out of state. I almost canceled, but I couldn't explain to my boss, "Sorry, I'm afraid my sister might commit property crime." So I left, locked everything, checked the cameras one last time, double-confirmed the backup cloud storage, then drove away from the house that no longer felt like home. I was halfway through a seminar on logistics software when my phone rang. Unknown number. I stepped out into the hallway and answered. A calm voice. Too calm. "Mr. Wilder, this is Officer Bray from the local fire department. There's been an incident at your residence." My brain blanked. What kind of incident? "There was a fire, contained but substantial damage. You'll want to come back as soon as possible." I don't remember the drive, just white noise and shaking hands. Alonzo called halfway through. One of the neighbors called him when they saw the flames. "Lucien, it's bad." When I pulled onto my street, I saw the fire trucks first. The flashing lights, the yellow tape, the scorched black outline of what used to be my sidewall. Half the house, gone. Windows shattered, roof collapsed inward, siding melted like candle wax. And standing in the driveway, Donald and Paris, talking to a cop, hands waving, defending someone. Before I even got out of the car, Paris walked up to me fast, voice syrup sweet. "Lucien, honey, don't panic. These things happen." "These things?" I said, staring at the wreckage. "My house is gone." Donald stepped in, palms raised. "Don't go accusing people." Accusing? No one had said anything about suspects until now. The fire investigator approached, introduced himself, professional but serious. "We're calling this suspicious. Point of origin looks deliberate. Do you have any cameras?" I pulled up the app, showed him the feed, the hooded figure, the sudden static. He nodded slowly. "Looks like your system was cut before ignition. We'll need this footage." Then Paris jumped in from behind me. "Just so you know, our daughter lives nearby. She would never do something like this." The investigator paused. "Ma'am, we haven't mentioned anyone by name." That was the moment it all crystallized. Not a guess, not a theory. They knew. The police pulled me aside to the back of a cruiser where it was quieter. One officer had a notepad out. The other had that calm look people get when they're trying not to alarm you. "Any conflicts lately? Threats? Anyone who'd want to hurt you or the property?" I didn't hesitate. I opened my phone and started scrolling like I was presenting a quarterly report. Texts from Alora, emails from Dario, screenshots of her social media posts, the transition plan, the guilt trips, the insults. The way they talked about my house like it was already theirs. The officer's eyebrows went up. "That's a lot." "It got worse every day," I said. They asked about the housewarming. I told them she'd brought strangers, and some had tagged themselves online. They asked if I had names. I said, "Not all, but I have receipts." They took pictures of my screen, wrote everything down, and asked for copies. While I was answering, I kept feeling eyes on me. When I turned, Alora was standing near the curb, arms crossed, face pinched, eyes red like she'd been crying, but her posture wasn't grief. It was anger. Not at the fire, at me. The second I looked at her, she walked over fast, voice trembling like she'd rehearsed it. "I can't believe you're letting them think I did this," she said, loud enough for a few neighbors to hear. "I'm your sister. I'm a mother. Why would I ever hurt you?" I stared at her. "Alora, I didn't even say your name." She froze for half a second, just long enough to show she'd already been bracing for it. Dario stepped beside her, trying to look composed. "You need to be careful," he told me, like I was a toddler holding scissors. "You're emotional. You could create a false narrative." I laughed once, not because it was funny, but because the audacity was dizzying. "A false narrative?" I said.
You tried to take my house 2 weeks ago." Alora's voice sharpened. "So you're really doing this? You're really going to destroy my life because you hate that I'm a mom?" That's when Alonzo arrived. He parked, saw the scene, and walked straight to me like he was closing a door behind him. "You okay?" he asked quietly. I swallowed. "No." He looked at Alora, then at the police, then back to me. "Don't say anything you can't prove, but don't protect people who'd burn you alive either." Behind us, Donald was talking to an officer, voice strained. "My daughter would never do something like this. She's fragile. She's under stress. Someone's exaggerating." The officer replied, "Sir, we're gathering facts. We haven't named any suspect." But Donald kept defending her anyway, like he was already in court. Then one of the investigators pulled me aside and said low, "Not official yet, but the timing fits someone who knew you weren't home." My stomach went cold, because I realized something worse than the fire. Alora didn't just want the house. She wanted to punish me for saying no. And my parents? They weren't asking if she did it. They were preparing to cover for her. A week later, the police called. Early morning. Calm tone. "We'd like you to come in, Mr. Wilder. We're moving forward with charges." I drove down in silence. Half the ride I was shaking. Not from nerves, just the weight of what it meant. That it wasn't just suspicion anymore. That the system had looked at the evidence, the messages, the timeline, the footage, and said, yeah, this was deliberate. The detective and investigator laid it all out for me in a small room with no windows. Accelerant near the back entrance, burn pattern that pointed to a specific ignition point, shoe prints consistent with a style Alora had been photographed wearing the week before, and the final nail, camera footage from a neighbor 2 doors down. Her car, parked near my house, time-stamped while I was out of town. She'd told police she'd been home all night. They were pressing charges for arson, property destruction, and endangerment. She was arrested that afternoon. I didn't hear it from the police. I heard it from Donald, who called me like I'd personally orchestrated her downfall. He was out of breath, panicked. They just came to her house, in front of Bentley, in handcuffs. She has a child. How could you let this happen? She set my house on fire. You could have stopped it, he snapped. You could have told them it was a misunderstanding. Families don't turn on each other like this. Paris jumped in on the same call, crying so hard I could barely make out her words.
"She made a mistake. She's been under stress. She didn't think clearly. Please, she's fragile. She has a baby." "So burning my life down was just an oopsie?" "Lucien," Paris sobbed, "you can still fix this. Tell them you're unsure. Say you were confused about the timeline. Say maybe it was someone else." "I told the truth," I cut in. "That's all I did." Donald's voice turned cold. "Then you're ruining this family." "No," I said, flat and even. "Alora did that." He hung up. 2 hours later, Dario posted a long, self-righteous essay on social media, called it a brother's betrayal, said I was unstable, said I didn't understand the weight of motherhood, claimed the system targets young families and I was helping it do that. His followers jumped on it. "Stay strong, King. Don't let toxic family break you. She deserves better." It was surreal watching my arsonist sister get #JusticeForMama trending. Then Dario messaged me from a new number. "Fix this, or things are going to get bad." I ignored him. He sent another. "I mean it. Don't underestimate me." Still ignored. That evening, I pulled into what was left of my driveway. Just ash, framing, tape. I sat in my car for a long minute, staring at the ruins. Then I heard it. Footsteps, fast, behind me. I turned just in time to see Dario coming at me with fists clenched and eyes wild. "You think you're gonna win? You think this makes you a hero? You're nothing without family." I grabbed his wrist mid-swing, twisted and shoved him hard against the hood of his own car. He struggled like a man who'd never actually been in a real fight. Alonzo pulled in right then, eyes wide. "You good?" he asked. Perfect timing. Dario sputtered, trying to get free. Alonzo walked over casually. "Call the cops. He touches you again, I want it on record." I shoved Dario back. He stumbled, caught himself, and pointed at me like a cartoon villain. "You'll regret this." "No," I said, "but you will." He peeled out like a sulking teenager, and for the first time since the fire, I almost smiled. The next few weeks were a blur of paperwork, court dates, insurance calls, and daily guilt trips from Donald in Paris. Every time the phone rang, I already knew what I'd hear. "Just drop the charges, Lucien. Do it for Bentley. She's paid enough. You're punishing her." Every call ended the same way, with me saying, "I'm not punishing anyone. I'm telling the truth." And every time I said it, they acted like I'd confessed to murder. Meanwhile, Alora stayed quiet publicly, but Dario doubled down. Another post, another batch of strangers calling me heartless, unforgiving, petty, cold. They didn't see the photos of my destroyed living room, the scorched walls, the sunken roof. They didn't know I'd spent 7 years building that place alone. They didn't want to know. Alonzo stayed close. "You're not doing this to her," he reminded me constantly. "She did it to herself. She made the choice. You're just refusing to lie about it." It helped. Barely. The court process was slow and full of stops and starts. Herdings rescheduled, lawyers negotiating. At one point, I overheard her public defender arguing that she was emotionally overwhelmed and that the house represented repressed family tension. I wanted to stand up and yell, "It represented my life." Eventually, a plea deal came down. She wouldn't serve jail time, only because she had no record and the house was unoccupied. But the judge was firm. Restitution, community service, counseling, probation. And the warning, one misstep and the suspended sentence would snap back in full. She took the deal. No apology, no tears, just a quiet, bitter, guilty. The court ordered her to pay tens of thousands in damages, not symbolic money, real restitution, structured monthly with wage garnishment and tax holds. The system may not have given me justice, but it finally gave her a bill.
Payouts for temporary housing, destroyed property, and what was left of the structure. I didn't rebuild. I sold the lot to a development firm and never looked back. The last time I saw Alora in person was at sentencing. She wouldn't look at me, but Donald and Paris did, like I was the one who lit the match. 2 months after sentencing, I blocked them all. Alora, Dario, and finally, my parents. Not in anger, not for revenge, just because I finally understood something. You can't heal in a house that's still on fire. Even when the fire's out, the smoke lingers. And they'd made it clear by every phone call, every guilt trip, every time they defended her instead of me, that I was never their son in the way Alora was their daughter. To them, I was the fixer, the strong one, the one who could be burned and still bounce back. But I was done being their ashtray. The final insult came quietly. Paris called from a new number. I didn't answer, but she left a voicemail. "We just want to move forward. She's rebuilding. Bentley misses you. This hate, it's hurting all of us." Hate. That's what they called boundaries now. I deleted the message. Not long after, the last chunk of the insurance payout cleared. I had enough to rebuild, but I didn't want that house anymore. I didn't even want that street. That city felt sour now. So I accepted a job transfer 3 states away. Higher salary, better apartment, and no one who called me selfish for protecting what I built. Alonzo helped me move. After the last box hit the floor, he looked around and said, "You feel it?" "What?" "The quiet. The real kind." He was right. For the first time in years, there was no dread, no "what if she shows up," no guilt buzz in the background. Just peace. Not a movie ending, not a triumphant music swell, no parade or grand epiphany. Just me, a couch, a cheap beer, and silence I didn't have to earn. Sometimes people ask what it's like to cut off family. Here's the truth. It's awful at first. Then it's freeing. Then it just becomes your new normal. I lost my house, my family, a version of my past I thought was solid. But I found something else. A life where I don't have to apologize for protecting it. And I'll take that trade. Every time.